Hello guys, welcome back to TFD, your home as a true basketball fan. We've got some genuinely shocking developments coming out of the WNBA right now, and this is the kind of situation that could reshape how people view the league moving forward. Before diving into it, I just want to say thank you for all the support lately. It really means a lot. If you've been enjoying the content, make sure you hit that like button however you like. Tap it, smash it, stomp it, because it truly helps the channel grow more than you might realize. Now, if you think back to last season, the conversation around the WNBA wasn't just about what was happening on the court, it was heavily focused on money. Players were very vocal, especially around All-Star Weekend, pushing the message of pay us what you owe us and pay us what we deserve. The narrative being promoted was clear. Women's basketball was booming because of the players themselves. Ratings were climbing, interest was rising, and the league seemed to be gaining momentum at a rapid pace. From that perspective, it made sense why players felt they were the driving force behind the growth. But here's where things start to get really interesting. There's another side to this story that fans, analysts, and even some voices within sports media have been pointing out. When you really break down the timeline of the WNBA's surge in popularity over the past couple of years, one name keeps standing out above the rest: Caitlin Clark. When Clark entered the league, the attention around the WNBA didn't just grow, it exploded almost overnight. Suddenly, arenas were selling out at unprecedented rates. Teams were moving games to larger venues just to accommodate demand. Television ratings spiked, social media engagement went through the roof, and the overall visibility of the league reached levels we hadn't seen before. Whether people want to admit it or not, a huge portion of this new wave of attention has been directly tied to Clark's presence. That's not to take anything away from other players or teams, they've absolutely benefited from the spotlight. In fact, there's a very real Caitlin Clark effect, where teams experience bigger crowds and higher viewership simply because they're playing against her. But the bigger question starts to emerge when you look beyond those specific matchups. What happens when Clark isn't part of the equation? How much of that momentum actually holds? There are some who believe that a significant percentage of the WNBA's recent growth, maybe even as high as 80 to 90%, has been fueled by the buzz surrounding Clark. Even if that number is exaggerated, the idea itself raises important questions about sustainability. If one player is responsible for such a large share of the league's visibility, it creates a unique and potentially risky situation moving forward. And this is where things connect to the bigger picture: media rights deals and long-term financial planning. The WNBA is currently part of larger broadcast agreements, and those deals are often based on projections of future growth. Networks and sponsors invest based on what they believe the league will become, not just what it is right now. So if a major portion of that growth is tied to one superstar, it complicates how those projections are made. At the end of the day, this isn't just about one player or one season, it's about the direction of the entire league. As a basketball fan, this is something worth paying close attention to, because what happens next could define the future of the WNBA for years to come. Hello guys, welcome back to TFD, your home as a true basketball fan here on Basketball Fan. Let's continue this conversation because what we're talking about here isn't just a small storyline or a passing headline. This is something much bigger. This is about how leagues are valued, how networks invest, and how the entire business of sports operates behind the scenes. When we talk about television deals, we're really talking about projections: how many viewers are expected to tune in, how much advertising revenue networks believe they can generate, and ultimately how valuable those broadcast rights become over time. These aren't static numbers. They're based on expectations about growth, consistency, and long-term interest. And here's where things get interesting, because those deals often come with renegotiation clauses or opt-out options that can completely reshape the financial landscape depending on performance. We've seen this play out in other major leagues before. The National Football League, for example, has renegotiated television arrangements multiple times with networks like CBS, adjusting deals when ratings exceeded expectations. When viewership numbers go beyond what was originally projected, leagues naturally push for more money, arguing that their product has become more valuable. On the flip side, when ratings don't hit those targets, networks start looking for ways to protect their investment. They may push for adjustments, renegotiations, or in some cases, even reconsider the structure of the deal altogether. A similar situation has occurred with Major League Soccer and its streaming partnership with Apple TV+, where certain conditions allow for reevaluation depending on performance metrics. This is why ratings are everything. Advertising, sponsorships, and broadcast rights are all tied directly to how many people are watching. If a network expects massive viewership, like the kind associated with the Super Bowl, and only gets a fraction of that audience, advertisers are going to demand compensation. That's just how the business works. The same principle applies across all sports, including the WNBA. So now we arrive at the big question. Can the WNBA maintain the surge in attention it has seen over the last couple of seasons, or was a large portion of that momentum tied to one specific superstar moment in time? Because whether people like the debate or not, the impact of Caitlin Clark on the league has been impossible to ignore. And as the league moves forward into its next era, that reality is going to shape every major conversation, from media deals to ticket pricing to overall growth strategy. Let's talk about real-world examples, because this is where things go from theory to undeniable reality. There was a mid-August matchup scheduled between the Indiana Fever and the Toronto Tempo at Scotiabank Arena, and the demand was absolutely insane. The game was nearly sold out within hours. The cheapest upper bowl tickets were priced at around $150, while many lower bowl seats ranged anywhere from $400 to $700. In total, roughly 18,000 tickets were sold in just a few hours. That's not normal. That's not typical league growth. That is what people are calling the Caitlin Clark effect in real time. And honestly, there's really no direct comparison in North American sports right now, at least not at this scale within women's basketball. Yes, there's excitement for new teams like Toronto, but let's be honest, they don't even have a fully established roster yet. The main draw, the real reason people are rushing to buy tickets, is the opportunity to see Clark play live. She has become what you might call box office a must-see attraction, the kind of player who drives demand regardless of the opponent. We're even seeing extreme examples in resale markets. Seats in upper sections that are typically considered less desirable, have been listed for over $1,400. That's for seats high up in the arena. Think about that for a second. Those kinds of prices are usually reserved for championship games or once-in-a-generation events. Yet here we are, seeing it happen for regular season WNBA matchups simply because of one player's presence. Now let's put this into perspective with a direct comparison. Consider a game between the Las Vegas Aces and the Portland Fire. For that matchup, upper-level tickets might be priced at $30, $33, maybe $50 at most. Completely reasonable, standard pricing. But then you look at a game where the Fever come to town with Caitlin Clark, and suddenly those same sections are priced at $200 or more. That's not a small increase. That's a massive gap. In some cases, tickets are 6 or 7 times more expensive for the exact same seating area in the same arena. That kind of pricing disparity tells you everything you need to know about demand. And it's not about disrespecting other players, because the league is full of incredible talent. Players like Aya Wilson are dominant forces, MVP-level athletes who have achieved greatness within the sport. But when it comes to pure ticket-selling power, the numbers are showing a clear difference. And in business, numbers don't lie. Now let's take a step back and look at attendance trends, because this is where the story becomes even more compelling. In 2023, the top-performing WNBA teams in terms of attendance were drawing between 155,000 and 191,000 fans over the course of the season. The Aces led with around 191,000, followed closely by teams like the Phoenix Mercury, Seattle Storm, Minnesota Lynx, and New York Liberty. Meanwhile, the Fever were near the bottom with approximately 81,000 total attendees. Fast forward to 2024, and everything changes. The Fever jump all the way to the top of the league with around 340,000 in attendance, more than doubling their previous numbers. The New York Liberty rise to 254,000, the Aces hit 225,000, the Storm reached 223,000, and several other teams surpassed the previous year's leaders. In fact, 6 teams in 2024 recorded higher attendance than the top team from 2023. That's not just growth, that's a massive shift across the entire league. And once again, the common factor in all of this is Caitlin Clark. Teams like the Washington Mystics, Atlanta Dream, Dallas Wings, and Chicago Sky started moving games to larger arenas specifically to accommodate the demand when the Fever came to town. Because when Clark is playing, everything changes. Attendance spikes, ticket prices rise, and the overall energy around the game feels different. This brings us back to the broader conversation about sustainability. The moment discussions around a new collective bargaining agreement started heating up, and the league's momentum became a focal point, the Caitlin Clark effect showed up again immediately. Tickets for upcoming games began disappearing almost as soon as they were released. Fans didn't hesitate. They saw an opportunity to witness something special and acted quickly. And when you compare ticket prices across different matchups, the contrast is impossible to ignore. In some arenas, upper-level tickets for non-Clark games might sit at $30 or $40. But when the Fever come to town, those same seats jump to $200 or more. That's not just a difference. That's a completely different level of demand. If you're looking for a comparison outside of the WNBA, the closest example might be Lionel Messi joining Inter Miami CF in Major League Soccer. When Messi arrived, everything changed. Stadiums sold out, ticket prices skyrocketed, and global attention shifted toward the league almost instantly. That's the level of impact we're talking about here. And yet, despite all of this evidence, attendance numbers, ticket pricing, viewership spikes, the debate continues. Some people fully acknowledge Clark's influence, while others push back, arguing that the league's growth is more collective. But at a certain point, the data becomes too overwhelming to ignore. So as we look toward the future, the stakes are incredibly high. Media deals, sponsorships, and long-term investments will all depend on whether the WNBA can sustain this level of interest. Can the league continue to grow beyond one superstar? Can it build on this momentum and create a broader, more stable fan base? Or will the numbers fluctuate depending on Clark's presence? These are the questions that will define the next chapter of the league. And as a true basketball fan watching on Baskitball Fan, this is exactly the kind of story you want to keep your eyes on. Because we're not just watching games, we're watching history unfold in real time. Anyway, let me know your thoughts in the comments. Do you think the WNBA can sustain this growth, or is it too heavily tied to one player? And if you enjoyed the video, make sure to smash that like button and subscribe for more content right here on TFD, built for every passionate basketball fan watching Baskitball Fan.